Today, we're going to Brussels. Brussels is the capital of Belgium, roughly in the center of the country, and it is also one of the main political centers of Europe. For travelers, it is a practical city. The historic center is compact enough to explore on foot, and trains, trams, and the metro make it easy to reach places that sit farther out. One useful thing to know before visiting is that Brussels is officially bilingual. French and Dutch both appear on signs, station names, and street names, so the same place can sometimes look slightly different depending on where you read it. That mix of languages, history, institutions, and everyday city life is part of what makes Brussels more layered than many visitors expect. Grand Place is the historic heart of Brussels, but the square you see today was shaped by disaster. In 1695, a French bombardment destroyed much of the city center. The houses around the square were rebuilt afterwards, mostly by the city's guilds, and that explains the rich facades. They were not just trying to make things pretty. These buildings were also statements of money, trade, status, and civic pride. The town hall is the great survivor of the square. Its tower dates from the 15th century, and the figure at the top represents Saint Michael, the patron saint of Brussels. Grand Place became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1998. It is not a large square, but the architectural density is extraordinary. Almost every facade is competing for attention. The Atomium was built for Expo 58, the Brussels World's Fair of 1958. It represents an iron crystal magnified 165 billion times. That is why the shape looks so unusual. 9 spheres connected by tubes, rising to a height of 102 meters. Each sphere is 18 meters in diameter. Several can be visited, so the Atomium is not only a monument to look at from outside, but also a building you can actually move through. The whole design belongs to the optimism of the late 1950s, when science, technology, and the future were presented almost like a promise. Next to it, Mini-Europe takes a very different approach. More than 350 monuments are reproduced at a scale of 1 to 25, turning European landmarks into a walkable miniature park at the foot of one of Belgium's strangest buildings. One of Brussels' most famous symbols is a tiny bronze figure on a street corner. Manneken Pis is much smaller than many visitors expect. The statue is only 55.5 centimeters tall and weighs about 20 kilograms. The sculpture was commissioned in 1619 from Jérôme Duquesnoy the Elder. The original is now kept in the Brussels City Museum, while the outdoor fountain uses a copy. Most of the time, visitors simply see the statue as it is. But on selected days, Manneken Pis is dressed according to an official calendar. Those outfits can mark national days, anniversaries, local events, or associations. Each costume has to be made specially for the tiny statue, even with an opening at the back for the fountain's water pipe. After being worn, the outfit becomes part of the official wardrobe collection. That makes Manneken Pis less of a static monument and more of a small Brussels tradition that changes throughout the year. The Royal Saint-Hubert Galleries opened in 1847. They were designed by architect Jean-Pierre Cluysenaar and are among the oldest covered shopping arcades in Europe. At the time, this was a modern way to experience the city. Shopping, walking, meeting people, and staying dry under a glass roof. The galleries replaced a darker, poorer area with a bright arcade of shops, cafes, cultural spaces, and apartments. The result still feels elegant today because the architecture is so controlled. Mont sits between the lower town and the upper Royal District. That position makes it one of the best places in central Brussels to understand the height difference in the city. From the garden area, you get a classic view back toward the tower of Brussels Town Hall. Nearby is the Musical Instruments Museum, usually called MIM. It is housed in the former Old England department store, one of the most striking Art Nouveau buildings in Brussels. The building was designed at the end of the 19th century, using iron, glass, and large windows in a way that still feels surprisingly modern. Inside, MIM has one of the world's major collections of musical instruments. Marolles gives Brussels a rougher, more lived-in texture. This neighborhood has working-class roots, antique shops, second-hand stores, old cafes, and streets that feel less polished than the areas around Grand Place. The center of it is the flea market on Place du Jeu de Balle. It takes place every morning, with more than 300 stalls selling objects, furniture, old photographs, records, clothes, and all kinds of things that do not fit neatly into one category. Marolles matters because it shows Brussels away from its official image. Less royal, less European, and much closer to everyday city life. Brussels has turned comic strips into street culture. Since 1991, large comic murals have been added to walls across the city. Today, there are more than 80 of them. That fits Belgium very well. This is the country of Tintin, the Smurfs, Lucky Luke, Gaston, Blake, and Mortimer, and many other comic characters that became part of popular culture far beyond Belgium. The murals are not all in one place. You discover them while walking through different neighborhoods, sometimes on a major street, sometimes on a quiet corner. That is what makes them work. A plain wall suddenly becomes a scene, a joke, a character, or a small reminder that Brussels is not only political and historic. It also has a playful side. Brussels is one of the key cities for Art Nouveau. Around the end of the 19th century, architects started using curved lines, iron, glass, mosaics, woodwork, and decorative details in a much more complete way. Victor Horta became one of the central names in that movement. Several of his Brussels townhouses are now UNESCO listed. The Horta Museum is especially useful because it shows the style from the inside. You see the staircase, the light, the furniture, the mosaics, and the stained glass working together as one design. That is the important point with Horta. Art Nouveau was not only decoration on a facade. In the best buildings, even the smallest detail belonged to the whole idea. Cinquantenaire Park was created in 1880 to mark 50 years of Belgian independence. It sits in the eastern part of Brussels, close to the European quarter, and it gives the city a much more open, monumental feeling than the narrow streets of the historic center. The large triumphal arch came later. It was inaugurated in 1905 for the 75th anniversary of Belgian independence and has a bronze quadriga at the top. The park is also surrounded by museums, including military history, art, and automobiles. So it is not only a green space, but a whole museum district built around a national monument. The Sablon district is one of the more elegant parts of central Brussels. Its main landmark is the Church of Our Lady of Sablon, a late Gothic church with a sharp, detailed exterior and large stained glass windows inside. Around Grand Sablon, the atmosphere changes into antiques, galleries, cafes, and some of the city's best-known chocolate shops. That combination is what makes the area work, all within a short walk. After the louder and busier parts of Brussels, Sablon gives the city a more polished ending without feeling like a museum district. For a first visit to Brussels, the practical trick is to divide the city into zones. The historic center is the easiest part to walk. Keep that for the places close to Grand Place and the lower town. For the Atomium, plan a separate trip north. It is not difficult to reach, but it does not combine naturally with a casual walk through the center. For Art Nouveau, choose fewer addresses and give them time. The details are the point, and rushing past them defeats the purpose. Brussels rewards a slower pace more than people expect. A covered gallery, a comic wall, a market table, a chocolate shop, or a building detail you would miss if you were only chasing the next landmark. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel for free so you do not miss the next cities. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.